Hello again. My name's Stefan Senna. This is the Coherence Path. All roads lead to you. And I have another YouTube channel. It's called What Was Seen. So this channel is about it's about consciousness and how things affect our consciousness just in everyday life. But it also includes some experiences that I've had, and I also I'm eager to interview other people who have want to talk about consciousness and their own experiences. But it also includes, amongst those, some paranormal experiences. How I started doing art. I was told to do art during my own near-death experience or out-of-body experience, whatever the heck you want to call it. And so we talk about stuff like that on this channel. My other channel, which is What Was Seen, mostly deals with things that are paranormal or unexplained. This video is going to go on both because this video includes discussion about consciousness, but it's also such an unusual situation or circumstance that happened to me that, you know, it's goes on the other channel as well, because it's a very paranormal, anti-normal event that happened. Now, when I was driving out this highway that goes out towards Mount Hood and Detroit and so forth, there's a beautiful river out here. I've been fishing, haven't caught it, haven't even had a bite yet, but I was looking for a place to pull along the river that would be very quiet. And the reason why is because I wanted to make it easier for people to hear me on this particular story, because it requires some stuff you could take and use for yourself and try out. Why not? And so when I found this spot the other day, there was some campers making a bunch of noise, so I didn't do the video. But I'm back today, and I still wasn't just assuming I would come here. I went around and I looked for the perfect spot, and I thought, well, this just turns out, like the other day, to be a good quiet spot. So when I pulled up here and parked my car, I came down the hill, and it wasn't until then that I saw these two Canadian geese that are on the other side of the river. Let's see if we can turn it here just a little bit. They're underneath that tree right there. They're kind of hard to see. They're in the water, kind of above my finger now. You see that stick hanging down? If you look straight down, they're sitting over there. They were standing over here. And anyway, I thought it was quite fitting, because the specific topic that I wanted to talk to you about today is involving Canadian geese. And I'm out here in the middle of the woods. I mean, I wouldn't think that there would be any Canadian geese out here. I mean, I don't know. I thought they'd be like at a marsh or a pond or something. But no, here's two Canadian geese. They just decided to hang out in the exact spot that that I ended up coming to. So it's quite fitting. Anyway, now I've talked about my own out-of-body experience, near-death experience. I've talked about ghosts. One ghost that I saw. I haven't talked about some of the other stories. I talked about when I experienced superhuman strength, which, that was very, unusual circumstance, not brought on by adrenaline and not needed. No adrenaline was needed. And so another experience I had was, now this was back in 2011, I believe it was, and my ex and I had decided to separate, and I just moved out with nothing, and I stayed on a couch, or no, I stayed in the spare room of one of my neighbors, and my youngster was able to come over, and we still shared 50-50 custody and so forth, and but anyway, I was my ex was staying over at her mother's, and that's where my kid was. And they were about, gosh, 4 at the time, I think, 4 or 5. Well, I went over there to pick my youngster up, and my ex-mother-in-law informed me that they were still sleeping. So I thought, okay, I'll just go for a walk. And she lived in these condominium units, and but next to those condominium units was a large field because there was a school over there. I think it was junior high. It was either junior high or high school. It had a really big field and a soccer field and all that stuff. And I had gone for walks over there many times, through the years that we were married, and so it was very common for me in the field to see geese over there. There was always a flock or a crowd of geese, I don't know what you call it, hanging out over there. It fit anywhere from 40 to 60 of those things at a time. And I was always perplexed what they ate, because they always seemed to be having their head down. They're always picking at the grass in the field. And this field across from the condominiums, where the lower field, it sloped up, and then there was a hill, and then on top of the hill was a school. But there was a big chain link fence surrounding the whole area, so it wasn't like I could just walk right into the field from my ex-mother-in-law's place. So because they were sleeping, I just said, well, I'll just go for a walk. And I had our dog with me, whose name was Santos, which means saint, I believe, in Spanish. And Santos was a very mellow dog, German Shepherd, Chow, and Coyote mix. And the coyote part's kind of interesting, because that must have been what made him seek to chase wild animals. And he was extremely smart and obedient, and he wouldn't do that unless you gave him permission. If there was some ducks on like those geese out there, if I would have said okay, he'd go chase those, because there was just some part of him that liked chasing wild things. I remember he chased a deer one time, but I called him back because he got too close, and he came right back. But anyway, so I was walking Santos, and we had to go up this long path and over, several blocks to get to the school, so that we could go along inside the school and down and over by that the top of the little hill. And I didn't know that's where I was going. I just went for a walk with the dog, and that's where we ended up. And I decided, well, I've got, I might be needing to wait for half an hour or an hour before they wake up, so I can get my youngster. And so I thought, well, once I got over there to the school, I sat down on the top of that crest of grass, at the top of the hill. And I could see, when I was sitting, I could see down the hill, and I could see all the geese walking around, just doing their thing. They're all spread out, and those geese are moving upstream. But anyway, I sat down, and I had started meditating as soon as I knew that change was necessary for me to, get out of that relationship and just focus on myself and my kid, my youngster, and what a blessing that's been. I just decided on that morning to meditate, and so I sat there into in sort of a yoga posture, my legs crossed over each other. Santos, my dog, was big dog. He was sitting next to me, and the geese were down below, and I could tell he wanted to go down there and go chase those geese, but I had told him no. So he was fine with that. He didn't like, some dogs, you give them something, tell them something, and they'll behave, but they'll just be freaking out all in their skin. He wasn't that way. He was highly intelligent. He knew I wasn't going to change my mind. There was no way in heck I was going to let him chase those geese. And so he looked at me, he sat down, and okay, whatever. And so he just laid his head on the grass and just watched the geese, but he wasn't even going to think about going down there. So I started meditating, and um, I decided to focus on something that I really was concerned about, and that was my relationship with my child and my relationship with my child with the change with what was going on because we're no longer be all living in the same house. I was very concerned about uh, the effects of that on them and how they would acclimate to the whole thing. And honestly, authentically, I was concerned about my ex and hoped that she would um, come to resolution and coherence with the situation and just be at peace with it, and we could all just move forward and do what's needed for each of us so that we could each blossom and grow into the beings we needed to be. And so I thought, well, to encapsulate my desire in response to or in respect to all these things, I thought of one word, and that was the word love. So I closed my eyes and I just would breathe in and breathe out. And when I breathe out, I would just say the word love within my mind. But here's the formula that I used in case somebody wants to try it again. But this is the formula that I used. What I did is I slowed my breath down, I closed my eyes, and I said the word love out loud, audibly out loud, like love. And then I said it again quieter, love. And then I said it again quieter, love. And I said it again quieter. And then I just mouthed it. And then I didn't move my mouth anymore. I went interior within my own consciousness. And just within my mind, I said love. But I kept it paced with my breath. Love. Okay. So I did that I was doing that for probably, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes. And I was completely in a zone. I was completely at peace. I had already done enough meditation during that month or two that I was able to just quiet my mind. There was no extraneous thoughts going on. I was just completely vacant of any thoughts. And in fact, when you're allowing your inhale to be empty and sort of gearing up to say the word, whatever your intention is, it sort of traps your mind in like a groove. And so you breathe in, you breathe in, there's the expectation of saying the word love, and then when I exhaled, I just said love in my mind, right? It was a steady pulse. So I'm staying the steady pulse of the word love. And I'm just picturing myself in emptiness. There's nothing around. I'm just sitting in darkness, and the stars are above me, and it's like at night, and it's just a peaceful, quiet place. Well, when I was doing this, all of a sudden, an image of an old commercial popped in my head. And if you're my age, 60 or more, perhaps up to your maybe 50s, early 50s or late 40s, you might remember a commercial that was on television during the 70s. And the commercial, I believe it was a hairspray commercial. Anyway, part of the commercial, it would say something, and then it would say, and you'll tell a friend, and then they'll tell a friend, and so on, and so on, and so on. Well, the vision of this commercial interrupted my meditation within my mind. It just flashed on the screen in front of me, and it was the part of the commercial saying, and so on, and so on, and so on. And because during this commercial also, the screen of the TV is dividing in half, then in fourths, then eighths, then 16ths, and 32. And you see all these different people's faces, like they're all doing the same thing. And then you hear all their voices saying, and so on, and so on, and so on, all at the same time. So it becomes this echo of people speaking, and so on, and so on. And, by the end of the commercial, pretty much, it sounds like this massive amount of people are repeating the same words. So I'm sitting here in this posture and, just saying love over and over with my breath, steady as a heartbeat. And this image comes in my mind. So I thought, okay, how do I apply this to my meditation? And I duplicated myself. So visually within my mind, I imagined another one of me sitting in the same exact posture, eyes closed, but facing me, saying love within itself. And I, in my visionary experience, could feel the energy of their internal dialogue as they said it. So every time I said love, I could feel them saying love within themselves. And then the next phase was I pictured two, so I doubled it. So we became like a square. There was four of us, of myself. There was four of myself. There's a funny little bug walking on the tripod. But we were all saying love, love, and I think it would let it go 2 beats, and then I divided again. And so then we went from 4 till 8. And so it just became this circle around the core 4. And then it just repeated again and again. I kept going to 32, 64, 120, whatever that is, 128. But at some point I stopped counting, and I just realized all I had to do is visualize the mass doubling each time. So in order to see the doubling, then my own consciousness floated above my body within my own visualization, and I could see myself doubling and doubling and doubling. Of course, I didn't want anything in the way, so I imagined the landscape just accommodating that. So, there was space, more space, more space. And then I visualized that all these doubles of me, these clones of myself saying love, covered, a neighborhood. Then they covered the city, and then or maybe the township or whatever, because there's different parts of Portland, and then the city, and then the state, and then because I had to go up higher visually to be able to see the entire thing. But the whole time there's just the crescendo of the word love, as visually I guess kept seeing all these replicas saying love over and over and over. And then I eventually pulled up high enough in perspective to see the continental United States, South America, the whole West Coast, and then I pulled out far enough to where I could see the entire planet from space. And I had to flick a bug off my phone. I'm not sure what its intentions were. It was a very big bug. But anyway, it's down there crawling around. But anyway, so I just kept drawing back farther and farther and farther. I could see the entire planet. It was resonating with these points of consciousness, replicas of myself, that were just saying love, love, love. It was slower than that because I wasn't breathing that fast. And then I pulled farther back in space, and I could see the entire planet, but as if it was much smaller, but it was still vibrating. And then these vibrations of the word love was transmuting itself to space. So it was just vibrating in space, and all the planets and asteroids and everything else was just vibrating and vibrating and vibrating and vibrating over and over and over. So I just resided within this stream of consciousness that just had one intention, and that was love, and that was it. And I had the most authentic, hands-off, unconditional intention of love for all of us at that moment, because I really wanted all of us to just heal and grow beyond the the circumstances of the, you know, when, if you've ever had a relationship end or divorce or whatever, it's not the most enjoyable process. But so it was such a rhythmic thing that I was performing within myself. I mean, I just felt like I could reside there forever. I mean, it was just this incredible stream of energy, of consciousness. This information was all perfectly in structural alignment in the purest way. And so I just kept repeating love over and over within myself. Externally, I wasn't making any noise. If you saw me from, you're walking by, you'd see a man sitting there in a lotus position, basically, with his, hands folded in his lap, and his dog sitting next to him, And I trusted Santos completely. I always trusted that dog emphatically. I mean, he was the most trustworthy animal being I've ever been around. Just amazing creature. And I can just talking about him taps me into the memory of him, and I can feel that presence. And that's as easy as it is. You just focus on something, and a lot of people say, well, there's the Akashic records, and there's these guardians stand by with all this information. It's just all consciousness. Your consciousness enlivens, it quickens anything that it focuses on. And that's how intention works. You awaken a dream or desire, and if your intention is long enough and you focus on it and you're willing to just let it go, it'll create itself. But anyway, back to this. So I was meditating, repeating the word love over and over and over. And I wonder if this is a good time for a view change. It's kind of fun. How about this? See some rocks? Let's try this. How's that? I like the other view first. All right, consider this, a intermission. Here, get a little better view or a different view. So that's part one of the story, is get to the point of creating the circumstance, right? The process. So that was the process. I don't know if I've used any better, but so the process was I sat down with an honest intention. I sat in a relaxed way where my body wouldn't bother me. I think it'd bother me now. My joints wouldn't probably like that position as much, but and then the method. Now the method of repeating it out loud and then going, quieter and quieter and quieter, and then going interior. I learned that from, I was reading a book by Paramahansa Yogananda. It was about, I think, Kriya meditation or yoga or whatever. And it mentioned this process of meditation. And so I had been doing this and trying it. But I'm only talking like a month or two. That was it. And I wasn't like levitating. So I'm not saying this is anything weird. This isn't something that, you have to practice for years. I don't know why it happened. I have no freaking clue, other than the fact that I think that it was consciousness just telling me, hey, you're going through a bunch of change right now, and it's going to be okay. I think that's the only lesson there was. I have tried this a couple other times. There's part of me that wants to go, oh, let's see if I can manifest a pile of gold, but part of me knows, this is not some play tool. So, and it can't be used unless your higher consciousness allows it through, I think. But anyway, so I sat here doing the meditation. I don't know how long we're at. 24 minutes. But what happened was I just sat there saying love, 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 love from this aerial view out in space. Boom, boom, boom. The vibration was even vibrating the sun. It was vibrating all the stars. It was vibrating all the planets. It was just a massive vibration. So I got to a point where I decided, okay, it's time to stop. So I just got quieter and quieter, and I just opened my eyes. When I opened my eyes, I, just opened my lid, and down below where the geese had been in the field, all scattered, just doing their own thing, the geese had formed the word love. And every single goose was involved. So the letters were, maybe probably 15 feet tall and 8 feet long or wide, right? And it was across an area that was, probably 60 yards or 60 feet, I'm not sure. And so I'm looking down, and there's the word love. And of course, I'm shocked, right? This is reality. I just opened my eyes. There's the word love, and the geese, every single goose is perfectly within L-O-V-E, right? And I looked at my dog, Santos. He looked at me like, what's up? Right? And I was thinking, are you seeing what I'm seeing? And we both looked back down at the field. They were still. Now my eyes had gone from looking at the geese, the word love, to my dog, right in the eye. He's sitting up at this point. And then back, and they're still in the word love, and then they start separating. And within 2 seconds, it's all gone. It's all back the way it was. Okay? So that's my truth. It's just like when I was 15, I think I was, I woke up in my checking on something. I heard something up there. I was woke up in the middle of the night, and I could see the top of my closet, and the room was full of light. I was levitating off the floor. Do I have any explanation for that? Well, you have to watch the video. Anyway, I'm going to cut it short here because we're at about 28 minutes. But I would love to talk to other people who have witnessed or experienced where they saw the physical world change either because of their own intention or something they said or whatever, or some other unknown reason. There's been people who got mad and their light bulb busted, or they got upset and their computer stopped working. That happened to me twice. So there's different ways that our mind affects the physical reality. The Monroe Institute has tons of examples, and like a school per se for people who want to learn how to manipulate the physical world with the mind. They have all kinds of videos on that stuff that's real. I mean, you can go watch it. So it's not an unknown thing, but I wanted to share that experience because what it did for me is it just expanded my awareness and consciousness. At that time, it was like grace. It was like the universe or God or my higher consciousness saying, you know what, we know you're concerned. There's big change happening right now, but here's something that's going to tell you that we're just saying, relax, trust, and just move forward, making the little decisions you think are the best at the time. And that's what I did. So thanks for stopping by. That's my video for this subject. And I'm not sure where the geese went. I guess they went up the river somewhere. So thanks. Subscribe if you like. I want to do more and more of these videos and interview people who have had similar or other experiences. So I appreciate you looking at my video, and I'll see you again next time.